Welcome to the Fitfam podcast. This is Miss Natural Olympia Hilary.
And this is Douglas, the Formulator.
So today we're going to take you shopping with us.
I love to shop.
Not that type of shopping.
Oh, grocery
shopping.
I like to grocery shop as well. I think we're kind of unique in the fact that we enjoy grocery shopping. Number one, a lot of people do the whole Instacart. What is that? Where, they don't have to walk into the grocery store. We usually find it, the word's not entertaining, that's not quite right, but we enjoy walking through the grocery store and kind of looking at the different options, not only like the processed and boxed options, but also the options in the produce. And
absolutely, I think we're one of the few couples that we see anyways that go shopping together, and there is a lot of different reasons. I also like to watch people and see what they put in their carts and stuff like that, but it's kind of,
honestly, it's just kind of an interesting thing to see. And also, I kind of like it because it makes me go, oh, I haven't bought that before. I think I might want to try it. So on all aspects, it can be.
Absolutely. And I understand because of our profession too, we like to see new things and, a lot of the new products that come out too. So, but anyways, you don't have to shop together. But you do need to know some basic principles and some rules about the foods in the grocery store so you can live optimally.
Absolutely. And just for reference, Douglas and I live, why do I keep calling you Douglas today?
I don't know. I like it.
Live in a small town. And so we don't have access to markets like Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or Sprouts, which those options are phenomenal. And for those of you that have the ability to go to those, thumbs up for you.
So whenever we drive 2.5 hours down the valley, we do a big shopping like Costco, Trader Joe's, and all that stuff for a lot of items.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we have the Safeways, the Walmarts, the Bashes, the Kroger type stores and things there.
Yeah, so we're just going to kind of go through the basics that you would see in those types of grocery stores, just so that you can be more aware of the things that you're purchasing.
So let's shed some light on the common packaging scams that you might encounter, because they're big and they're real, like we talked about with the big companies wanting you to buy their food, so they're gonna do everything they can to sell it to you.
And that basically just looking at packaging itself, the bright colors, the bold lettering, the characters, the slogans, all of it.
Absolutely. So where do we start?
We're going to start with produce, right?
The best section of them all. And this is really interesting. I think that we talk about this a lot, and most people don't know how to look at the label of fruits and vegetables and based on the numbers know where the food comes from. And I think this is going to be a big eye-opener for people.
I think so too. I hadn't always either. I mean, it's been a few years now, but I didn't always know. And things have changed a bit in the grocery stores nowadays as well, because now oftentimes they have organic separated in different sections.
That's true.
So like at Safeway, they have like their organic section. So that does help. So going through the numbers that you might see on your fruit.
There's 3 basic ones.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so let's talk about the best one.
Okay. The best one is the organic one. So it would be like it's a 5-digit number that begins with the number 9.
That's the main thing. So just look at it and you'll see the little teeny sticker on the fruit.
With the barcode.
The vegetable, the barcode. Good point. And it's always going to be 5 digits. And if it starts with a 9, good to go.
9 is fine.
9 is fine. Woo, like that.
Let's do it.
And, a lot of times you will find the organics in the other areas, which, it's cheaper usually in the other sections. And so just look, and it's a cool find if you see the number 9 on there and, it's a lower price, because usually is a little bit higher priced because it's harder to grow fruits and vegetables organically. You're not using all the pesticides. You don't have to spend as much time in the fields. There's just a lot of factors involved with it, but it's well worth it when you can.
And we don't always. If there's not that option, we go with the secondary, which the secondary option would be fruit or vegetables that are grown conventionally.
Absolutely. And so what's the digits with it?
So a conventionally grown fruit or vegetable usually has a 4 digit number.
Yeah. And that's really it. It could be anything, but it's just 4 digits.
Yeah.
right? And the other two are 5 digits. So 4 digits, it's conventional grown, which means it very well could have some pesticides in it, but yet it was still the original seed, right? It
There
was
you
the
go.
original apple and peach and broccoli, tomatoes, all of those things. And that's important to look at. So number one, organic, 9 5-digit number.
Right.
Number
9 is
two,
fine.
9 is fine, 4-digit number, and that's conventional. And then we have one more.
So the last one is a genetically modified fruit or vegetable. And that one is also a 5-digit, but it begins with the number 8. So 8, not great.
Oh, I see what
Yeah. See?
And so we hate 8. Ooh, that's a good one too.
Oh.
But genetically modified, what that means is that they've taken the seed and they've modified it with DNA, changed it up so that it would grow a certain way. And we're finding out now that there are some side effects from that. And so it's not the best way to go. And I'm going to make a comment on any fruit and vegetable in a minute. But the best thing to know about this is that the 5-digit with a 9 is the best organic. 4-digit, anything is conventional. 5-digit with the 8, that's one you want to stay away from if at all possible. And fun fact.
Fun fact.
You ready?
You haven't done a fun fact in life.
Fun fact. 1994. Good year, by the way. And so
So glad.
1994 was the first year. This is the only bad thing that year is 1994 was the first year that they came out with genetically modified foods. It was a law that was passed that allowed them in America. And the very first one was called the Flavor Savor Tomato. And this was big because I was back with the Sun and we're trying to educate people on it. So I was really big in the marketplace and I was out there preaching against this. Is the reason it stuck so much in my mind. But what happened was they took tomatoes and they took the DNA from a firefly and ejected it into the seed and modified it so that then it improved the flavor, it improved the shelf life from just a few weeks to months, and it was allowed on the market. And actually now we know it's caused some issues and stuff long term, but you start messing with DNA, then after a while, it really comes back to haunt you. Usually, children after that and stuff down the generations. But that was the start of it. And ever since then, they've been allowed. But when they started having issues, at least they had to start putting the labels on them so that but they're not talked about much because they don't really want you.
Yeah.
Got it?
There you go.
They're fun fact.
I love your
Right. So we're in that section. And the comment I wanted to make is, look, any raw food is better than your processed, chemically laden foods any day. So I still would have a genetically modified fruit or vegetable. I know I have some friends that wouldn't say this, but I would over a processed food like a Twinkie or something that has extreme high amount of chemicals in it, dyes, things that aren't allowed in other countries. So, take it for what it's worth. We're trying to help you understand the healthiest forms of fruits and vegetables and knowing what to do. So practice that. Remember, 8-digit codes starts with a 9.
5-digit codes.
5-digit codes starts with a 9 is
Fine.
Starts with an 8.
Not great.
Not great. That's genetically modified, and 4 digits conventional. Okay.
Perfect.
So let's move in the grocery store. Let's move on over. And now we see more of the boxes, canned items.
Yeah. So
things like that. Right?
Yeah. So let's get into the fat-free concept.
Okay.
That was really big when did the fat-free frenzy? Yeah. Everybody was.
That
all
was the
fat.
early 90s too, where all of a sudden we were told that fat free is the only way to go, that fat's the devil and it's what causes all the major diseases today and stuff, which was false. It was a form of fat, but that's when it really got big.
And isn't it when you're removing fat, because when you're removing fat, you're removing flavor, right? Typically.
It's not pea.
And it's not orange soda.
No. It's glutathione. Yeah, master antioxidant. Good stuff. I'm looking at it in the thing. I'm like, I wonder what that is.
Sure people don't think you're drinking.
Okay, that's good.
Pea. Okay. Anyways, so what they replace fat with oftentimes is sugar, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And if you take a look at the statistics, is what happened was cardiovascular disease didn't go down. It actually went up along with diabetes and people's weight, body fat. So this whole getting off the fat thing backfired, as you mentioned.
Now it's not always true in everything,
Right.
of course, but you know, when you have to be really aware when you see the fat free and it feels healthier, because it's not always overall healthier.
Yeah, and I think that I like explaining it this way. So let's say we had a gallon of water.
Okay. Yeah, I do like this explanation.
And we put one little drop of oil in it. And remember, oil's 100% fat, right? So gallon of water, one drop of oil. We could sell it to you two ways, right? So if Hilary was selling it to you, she'd tell you it's 100% fat-free, or 99.9% fat-free. Sorry, because only 1/10 of the volume is fat.
Right.
Right? If I'm going to sell it to you,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to tell you it's 100% fat. So I'm going to be straight. No. Okay, so you could do it either way. You could be 100% fat because every calorie, right? Comes
Every calorie that you're going to consume is from fat.
boom, 100%.
Yeah.
Or it's 99.9% fat-free by
volume.
Okay. So
Good one.
that's how a lot of these companies will do the labeling. So don't look at a label and when it says a percent fat-free, 100% or 90%, don't even let that cross your mind. You want to do some little bit of calculating, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about the calculating with that that we mentioned to people when we're trying to talk about maybe getting 20% less fat in their diet and things.
Okay.
And so let's say we got a label and it says it's 100 calories and total calories is 100, and then it says it has 5 grams of fat. What do? We just take that fat gram and add a 0 to it, right? So 50 of the 100 calories is fat. So really, you know, it's not 90% fat free, right?
Fat.
It's half fat.
Ooh.
It's 50% fat.
Don't like that.
So 100 calories, 5 grams of fat, add the 0, just add a 0 to it, okay? So it's half fat. But now, if we want to go by a rule that we always teach, like don't put anything in the grocery cart that's above 20% fat if it's processed, right? And so now it's 100 calories and it says 2 grams of fat.
So there's your 20.
So it's 20. And you just add it up, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. So we're able to put it into the cart because it's 20% or less. So just add a 0 to the fat grams, divide that into the total calories, and that's the true percent.
I think sometime we need to actually go through a supplement fact label and really explain a supplement fact
Yeah, we can do that.
label, because that can be difficult to understand when you're talking about serving size versus.
Yeah, so if you just look at the label itself, when it says total calories per serving, and then you look at the fat grams, add the 0 to it, and we'll go through it a little bit more because we're going to do a podcast pretty soon that you've been wanting to about all the dyes and chemicals, and Hilary's getting the good foods and the bad foods, like the different
I'm
versions.
hoping in the next week or two that will be the next podcast. And
Absolutely.
we'll have the bad, and then we'll have the bad replacement. Not that it's necessarily healthy, but the replacement for the very bad. So anyway,
Absolutely. And so that's your fat percentage. And I think it's really important to understand that. Look at the label, add the 0 to the fat grams, divide it into the total calories, and then you're good to go. And you want to keep those types of fats lower because when you're talking about, you know, foods that are processed, the boxes and the bottles and the cans, then those foods are usually cooked and processed somewhat at least. And you want to keep the fat percentage lower. If it's a raw food.
yeah, so that's the difference. That's the difference. When you're talking about a raw food, when you're talking about an avocado, for example, an avocado is rich in fat, but it's rich in healthy fat. And so you wouldn't do that type of math with an avocado, mainly because it doesn't have supplement facts on it. But you wouldn't do that because all of the fat that you're getting is going to be utilized for your body's good and not stored as excess body fat.
Absolutely. And so we'd always buy raw coconut or young coconuts.
Young coconuts.
Right? High fat, but really good fat. So raw fats, you don't want to have to worry about that rule. You can just go with it and have good raw fats in your diet. Most people don't get enough raw fats in their diet, and fats are critical for hormone production, be able to have the brain think, you know, basically be able to stop any type of dementia or Alzheimer's from, starting if you have good fats for the most part.
Right, and they're imperative for a woman's hormonal function. It's sometimes a joke that Doug and I go back and forth on. As we're preparing for a show, my fat drops significantly because of the aesthetic that we're going for on stage. It wouldn't be something that I would maintain for my life because it's just far too low a fat. But Doug's really patient because he knows that once the fat drops, I don't have much patience anymore, and my hormones will fluctuate drastically. So I do want to mention one other thing because I feel like it's something that comes up a lot, and nuts. I want to talk about nuts really quick because we all think, no, nuts are healthy, right? And nuts in their raw form, if we're not eating loads of them, are healthy, and they do contain a great amount of fat. They contain a great amount of protein and some carbs. So they're really a complete, perfect food in their raw form. The second that you cook a nut, that you roast a nut, that you fry a nut, it changes, and it now becomes a processed fat, which will wreak havoc on your body. So just remember that when you're picking up a can of Planters peanuts or roasted peanuts.
Or almonds, yeah. Just try to get them raw.
Almonds or pecans or anything. So you just try to get them raw.
Absolutely. And the research on raw nuts is phenomenal for brain health, for longevity, for heart health. And the difference between causing heart disease and poor cognitive function and those things versus the opposite is raw versus cooked. So definitely watch that. What happens to fats is it goes through a process in terms of, it's called a trans fat. A trans fat is one that oxidizes the body instead of provides the fatty acids for hormonal development and be able to get past the blood-brain barrier and take nutrients in. It turns to this oxidation. It's like rusting inside the body, and so we definitely want to focus in on the raw.
Yeah, and something that's really cool about raw healthy fats is that it helps to emulsify bad fat, right? So it helps your body to process the bad fat better.
Absolutely. You actually lose more of the bad fat when you get the good fats in. So don't shy away from healthy fats, shy away from the processed fats. And one other thing just about labels real quick. Comes down to serving sizes. Another way that we're manipulated is you'll look at it and you'll say, oh, it's only 100 calories, but you didn't look to realize there are 16 servings in that bag. So 1,600 calories.
Yeah, you definitely need to be aware of how many servings of something you're eating when you're consuming processed food.
Yeah, and one of the biggest examples of that is chips. It doesn't matter if it's healthy or baked chips, and that's how they usually get you, is looking on there and you think, oh, it's only so many calories, but it has a whole bunch of servings in that, and you eat the whole thing. Ice cream, things like that too. They'll do a lot of servings.
Why'd you bring up chips?
And stuff. I love chips.
Corn chips. Doug loves corn.
Baked are the best.
But he loves corn chips.
Yes.
I do too.
We're Southwest. We're chips and salsa people. So, at the end of the day.
Well, also, I'm with you, but I did want to talk about the sugar-free concept. Did we mention the sugar-free deal? Sugar-free, and not just sugar-free. When it mentions sugar-free and then other sugars, sugars are added.
Yeah, let's start with the basics, and then we'll go to kind of think where you're talking about and the harm of the synthetics. But what happens with sugar is because we're getting indoctrinated finally, that sugar is the bad thing, that it's what causes a lot of the issues of diabetes risk, of heart disease risk. Remember, when you have excess sugars in the bloodstream, you will die if you don't do something about it. Your body, you will die. Okay.
So
it'll raise your blood pressure.
Push those out, right?
Yep. And that's why we have insulin, to get that blood sugar out. And that's why you have diabetes. People don't make enough insulin, blood sugar rises, and we die if we don't do something about it. So that's just how come sugar is bad. But one of the things the body does is it takes those excess glucose molecules in the bloodstream and they will bind them together into what's called triglycerides. It actually converts them into triglycerides so that you don't die.
Right.
But then it stores them as fat, so you get fatter on sugar.
Right.
And that was the big misconception in the 90s, right?
Right.
Get fat out, you lose fat. No, you increase the sugar, you actually get fatter. And so we want to limit sugar. And, you know, a lot of the people in our arena, a lot of the different scientists and doctors, we don't get along with everything. Like some diets and like others and things. But one thing that we all agree on is sugar causing major issues in the body, excess sugar. And so one of the ways that they get away with you not thinking there's sugar, as much sugar in a product, is with syrups. So like corn syrups, rice syrups. That's one way they'll try to hide the word sugar.
Right. Or OS. So fructose, sucrose, maltose, dextrose, those
That's a big
things.
one. Yeah, just think of OS. That's a really good one with that. And then a lot of times they'll try to make the sugar just sound better. And it'll still say sugar, but it'll be like cane sugar, brown sugar, confectionery sugar, things like that, raw sugar, which in all reality, if you're going to have sugar, the raw sugar is the best. But remember, it's still sugar, and it's still too much of it will cause the body to have excess blood pressure in the blood vessels, get stored as fat, goes all bad.
Okay, so that's sugar in general. Now, what about when it says sugar-free? And it actually is sugar-free.
Yeah, it's all bad.
Tell me the problems with sucralose and aspartame.
So it's the same thing. It's one advantage of being around for 1,000 years is people are a little bit older, is we see this like the fat-free, and we saw it come back to haunt us, right?
Right.
And so when we realized, when the world realized how bad sugar was for you, all of a sudden these processed food companies said, oh, we'll make a synthetic sugar. So they make aspartame, right? They make sucralose and these synthetic sugars. And come to find out that they actually are worse for you. And I'm completely against, have been against since the very start. I remember one of the students at ASU did their master's thesis on aspartame and showing the brain damage that it causes. And they actually did the study from the Desert Storm that the Coke and Pepsi would send these pallets of soda over to Desert Storm, and they'd sit outside, and they had aspartame in them, the diet sodas. And aspartame at 98 degrees actually turns into formaldehyde.
Yeah.
And there's something about 98 degrees. So, you know, it's pretty easy to do, right?
Yeah.
So in the body. So we know that it's important to be able to stay away from these synthetics. And I tell people all the time, look, if you're going to have something with sugar in it and you're thinking, I'm going to go ahead and do this, you know, aspartame and sucralose instead to be sugar-free, don't. Actually, I'd rather have the sugar and just limit the amount of sugar you're taking in.
Right.
And so you had an experience with sucralose.
I did. I think we've talked about that before.
Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
Okay. You know, something had changed in my diet. I had noticed I was just feeling majorly exhausted. 2 o'clock would hit, 2 o'clock would hit, and I was done. I had to have a nap. And so we went through the diet, and I was like, nothing's really changed. And then we realized at that point in time, I was trying to get a little bit higher protein, and I just didn't feel like eating it. And I found these little shots that were like these little, they called them bullets, and they were 20 grams of protein. And I was like, sweet, I could just drink it and I'm good. And I was drinking them daily. And then I had also, I think, started drinking maybe some energy drinks at that time.
Yeah.
Anyways, and they had sucralose in them. And so it was the only change within the diet. So we pulled those out.
Well, we ran blood work.
We ran blood work.
And we saw that you actually, based on numbers, had Hashimoto's disease. The thyroid was affected dramatically from it. And that's what was causing the problems in your energy and mood swings and things like that. And pulling that out, it was about 3 months. We kept running the blood work. And numbers came back to where, by the numbers, you didn't show that you had Hashimoto's anymore, which is really cool. So
the only thing we did different was remove those from the diet and fix it.
Absolutely. So remember the aspartame, and I know here's the problem with research now is we got so excited when the research went from Medline and it went on to Google and we could do the research. But now it's easier for research to be censored and a lot of it not being shown based on lobbyists and big pharma and all that. So it's a little bit tougher, but the research does show that aspartame causes major damage to the body, brain damage, major issues long term. And the research does show, even though some people like to argue against it because of the suppression of some of the studies, sucralose actually destroys the friendly bacteria in your gut, which is one of the major factors for immune system, for your cravings of food.
I think that's the major problem there with sucralose is the destruction of your gut.
Of your probiotics, your friendly bacteria, absolutely. And what it did to, like in the case for females, more than men, the thyroid. And so that's a big thing. So stay away from the synthetic sugars for sure, and limit the amount of sugar you take in each day is one of the greatest things you do. If you did nothing else but just made it so that you took in less than 50 grams of sugar a day, you just counted the sugar, and the only thing you don't have to count is raw berries and fruits. And boom, and you're good to go. So let's go over kind of toward the opposite end of the store. We'll kind of finish up here and get to the aisle like where the milk, and it'll kind of go back to a little bit of the label that we talked about. But this is a great example, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna let you do this one.
Okay, so let's go to the milk aisle. And first of all, we're not against cow milk.
No, Doug used to have us go and get jars from a neighbor of raw cow's milk.
Absolutely.
And he was a big fan of that.
Absolutely. And so,
and growing up, isn't that what you got for your father?
Absolutely. Growing up, that was what we did. I remember it still traumatized me to this day. I got my brand new bike, and I was all excited with my new bike to show off my friends, had the banana seat, and my dad put
a
basket on it because every morning I had to go down and get the raw milk in these big jars and come back, and so I had to have a basket in it. But
how did your dad drink the milk? What did he do?
He'd actually get the cream and actually have the cream on his oatmeal and stuff straight up.
Doug's dad lived until he was 92.
Oh yeah, should have been 112.
Nice, good long life.
But anyway, so let's go back. I just wanted to make that point because you'll hear me talk a lot, and the doctors hear me talk a lot at seminars against cow's milk, but I'm against processed cow's milk. And that's the big difference, is when you take the milk and you go through the pasteurization, homogenization process, what happens is that the milk goes through these sprayers at a very deep pressure, and the fats are broken down to very small molecules, so small that the body doesn't recognize them, and it gets into the bloodstream, and these small fat molecules start causing major issues in the body. And it can lead to diabetes. It can lead to a lot of problems in the body. So I'm really against the processed milk. The research bears it out. But let's just look at the label, because a lot of people will go, and this is one of the things about watching people at the grocery store that I love. One time I saw some, I get the 2% milk. The mom was telling the child to get the 2% milk because it was healthier than the whole milk. And if we look at that label, let's just go through it real quick. A whole milk label. So whole milk, right? And for example, it'll usually say like 9 grams of fat in it and 160 calories per serving per 8 ounces. Perfect. So remember the math. Whatever the fat grams is, add a 0. So 90 of the 160 calories, right, is fat. So it's over half fat. So now let's go to the 2% milk, and it's really big on them, right? They say 2% all over the label. It's like, oh, it's only 2%
That's what I
fat.
grew up drinking in my household.
Yeah, because it's easy, right? As your parents were like, oh, it's 2% fat. But if you play the math with what we taught you, let's say in most 2% for 8 ounces, it's 140 calories.
Right.
Right. But the fat grams
5
is still 5. So we add the 0. 50 of the 140 is fat. So it's still well over 30% fat. So one's just over 50% fat, one's over 30% fat, but yet it says 2% fat. What's by volume? By volume again. So again, don't play the game of the 2% milk in that. Look at the fat percentage, and that's really what you want to go off of. And in all reality, stay away from processed milk. We switched years ago because it's harder and harder to get raw milk to almond milks, oat milks, and just have those have the least amount of ingredients possible.
Yeah, that is. And again, where we're from, it can be difficult to get in those other the other brands. So oftentimes we get just the most popular brands, and we just do our best with that.
Absolutely. And so the key is to know labels and to add the 0 to the fat grams. You'll know that. Take a look at sugars. Limit your total sugars under 50 grams.
Yeah, and here's the thing, as you're trying to change up sugar and eating sugar, because it can be tricky. And first of all, I would always recommend, when you are really trying to change your eating habits, start with the 21-day challenge, because what it does is it addresses all of the major things that we come into contact that really wreak havoc on our health. So fried food, carbonation, sugar.
Gosh, taking your vitamins, not exercise.
Exercise. So it addresses all of the major things. And then, so for 21 days, you stay away from those things. Your taste buds change, your gut starts to change, and all of a sudden you don't crave those things as much. So I would always recommend the 21-day challenge, because, and even we do it sometimes, you know, as we've gone throughout the year, sometimes after the holidays.
Brave and Shelby just did it.
Yeah, Brave and Shelby, I think, are currently doing it. And we just went to Lake Powell, and they had an awesome time, and still were able to, you know, work their way around it. But there are times that we are gone on vacation or over the holidays that we do overindulge. And when we're done, we're like, hey, it's time, 21-day challenge, let's go. And all it does is it just changes what you're craving again and gets you back to the things that your body really, really needs. But also, as you're doing that, because sugar is such a big one, some of the things that you can do to help is stevia or stevia. I always say stevia.
That's right.
I don't know. You can use stevia to help sweeten things. You can use raw honey. And if you can source monk fruit, if you can source raw honey from your community, it's that much better, because it then helps with allergens that you come in contact with in your community.
Absolutely. So around here, we get the mesquite honey or the orange blossom honey that is from the hives near us, and it definitely helps with people with allergies.
Yeah. So when you're trying to satisfy or change that sugar that you've been addicted to, stevia, honey, and also fruit. Enjoy fruit in the way that it was meant to be enjoyed, and start consuming more fruit, and pretty soon you'll realize, wow, that is sweet enough. You know, we just get in a habit of having things and having them so sweet that we think it has to be a certain way. And once you start having nature's candy, which is fruit, it changes everything.
I love that. And you know, there are some people that say, oh, you shouldn't eat so much fruit because of the sugar that's in it, and there's some studies to really show that that's not true. But if you're one of those that you're concerned about fruit sugars, well, you're not, by the way, but you then focus more on berries, right?
Because or when you eat fruit, consume something with some more fiber,
like a vegetable with it and things like that. But absolutely, so berries by far are the best thing. The new research out on blueberries, cognitive function, raspberries, any of those types of things. But we are a big fan of fruit, just from the aspect of we understand how it's metabolized in the body. So raw is the best. Remember that. So we made it all through the store. Let's finish up with the checkout stand.
Oh, they like to get us there. They get me there, man. If I'm not on strict prep, I'm going to be honest. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, those pretzels. Why is it the pretzels for me?
Well, and I think it has to do with, you know, the quick sugar rush. And so what happens is the stores know that most Americans' diets are off, and that we're not consuming enough complex carbohydrates. And so we want that rush. We want that energy. So we want the instant energy. We want the instant
or the instant
processed sugars, or the instant gratification, but it usually comes from that. And so what they do is they put those foods at the checkout stand. So if you want to know what you really shouldn't be eating, check out the foods at the checkout stand. But that's where you get most of your candy bars, your gums, your lifesavers, your white flour products, chips, things like that, the fried foods.
Yeah, notice that next time you're checking out, because I think we've all kind of heard that at one time or another, but really notice the things that they are advertising as you're checking out. It's really interesting when you do that.
It's usually a quick rush sugar to give you some energy that satisfies a lot of things, your dopamine response and all of that. It's like, oh yeah, and the kids are yelling and screaming, wanting it. So absolutely have everything in the cart, and with your children and that beforehand, talk about, oh, you want this and that. So they've already picked the things that they can have, the 2 or 3 things before you get to the checkout stand. You've already made that agreement with them, and it really goes a long way. So that's it for going shopping with Doug and Hilary. Hope you enjoyed it. And
Next time we'll do like clothes. No?
no, we're not doing clothes.
Shoes?
No, we'll go to the hot rod shop. So
No one wants to talk about hot rod.
yeah, they do. Put it in the comments. So we'll put in the comments also the 21-day challenge. Now the 21-day challenge is for people that still like to check things off. You get a booklet with it and you go that way. You can also download for free the 63 for Me app. Just go to
Also a good one.
your app store, download it. It's free. And 63 for Me. It's a 21-day challenge 3 times in a row. So you can do it for 21 days. You can do it for whatever, but it's the same thing that you mark off, you know, no fried foods, eating your berries, doing, you know, drinking a gallon of water a day, and you mark it off. And it's a great way to improve your habits of eating. And that's really what this is about, is improve your eating habits. You improve the cells, you reach optimal health. Life is great.
Life is great. And in the comments, if you will put the things that your children, the snacks that your children love that are not healthy, like for example, I know my kids young and my nieces and nephews, they love Takis. So that kind of thing, put those in the comments, because I would love the challenge of finding the better option for the snacks that your kids love.
Great idea. Thanks so much for joining us. As usual, this is Miss Natural Olympia Hilary.
And this is the Formulator.
Keep chewing. Have a good one. Talk soon.
See you next time.